Alright folks, 6 new Polish tank destroyers coming out in patch 1.24.1 that are meant to be played as super aggressive assault guns such as the Object 263 or 268 version number 4, utilizing armor, mobility, and a large caliber gun to be a heavy tank without a turret, especially at the higher tiers. But they have a new mechanic starting at tier 8 called Star Tray Shells, which is basically a damage drop-off at a distance, so heavily incentivizing to be super aggressive, close range fighting vehicle. The DPM drop-off is 50% or more, even tier 10, so going from 800 alpha all the way down to 300. So DPM is high, but you have to be very close. The show velocity is quick, but it's meant for sniping light tanks or EBRs with low health, right? So heavily incentivized to be aggressive, very aggressive. So there are 6, there's a lot to go through. We'll go through all the stats, all the dispersion factors, hidden stats, armor profile, as well as stock grind. So let's get to it, but I'll spend more time on the higher tiers. They're a little bit more complex with the new mechanics and the field mods and other stuff, but SDP-40 Zadymka, coming from the 14 TP light tank. You have to research the gun, but you probably unlock it from the heavy tank line, so that's fine. So 75mm stock to a 90, basic straightforward tech tree. There's no crisscrossing or sharing of most modules other than the radio, so you have to research the engine, the guns, obviously the tracks, but it's a dinky little 75. Based on a British experience in manufacturing halls. Does kind of look like an AT series, slightly, right? With the lopsided mounting of the gun, but crew of 4, 75mm stock. It's okay, it's adequate enough, similar to a 𝗧𝗶𝘀, but upgraded to a 90 ASAP for better pin, as well as better gold shell and alpha damage, but yeah, it's a medium tank gun, stock-wise. Alright, so DPM is not half bad for stock, but gun traverse arc is if. Engine power stock is also 14. Top speed is not bad, but struggle to reach that top speed. Camo is halfway decent. View range is utter crap. So once you have the radio from the heavy tanks or medium tanks, mount that thing, but that radio is still kind of below average. No artillery support if you're too far away from artillery, but research your gun ASAP. Gets a DPM cut, accuracy and aim time cut, but better penetration, which is kind of important. That pin is still roughly the same as the 𝗧𝗶𝘀's 75mm, but you have better alpha at close range. And gun depression. Without the gun traverse arc, 5 degrees per side. So research your engine next. Better horsepower per ton ratio, and obviously the tracks. So fully kitted out, how good is the armor to be aggressive with this vehicle, right? That's a big question. Let's use a 75mm with 120mm of pin for baseline at tier 5. Usual medium tank gun. It's 100mm for the superstructure, as advertised, but upper plate is 40 sloped. Oh no. Oh no. It's only 80 or so millimeters effective. Lower plate 40. About 60mm effective. It's not 82. That's a big ass weak spot. You're camping in the back. You're not being super aggressive. So there's no designation or category for this type of tank destroyer, but you're not being too aggressive. Hold down. And sometimes you'll bounce, but heavy tank gun at a distance 50% of the time will pin, such as the 85mm or 88mm, the L56s, maybe, but yeah, this armor is not the greatest. It's flat, it is slightly sloped, but not much, so this is not a frontline vehicle. Don't play this thing like a frontline. You could bounce a few shots with the mantlet, but God, this upper plate sucks. Side armor 50, nothing to write home about. So you're sniping. You're sometimes sniping, but mostly you're camping the back. Accuracy aim time is kind of if for sniping, but you're camping the back. How good is the dispersion? Rough. Terrain resistance also kind of rough. So it's not the fastest. It's also not the heavily armored type like an AT2. Oh god, this is like a freaking 4 at best. This might be the black sheep of the whole tech tree. Might be. Carry 55 rounds. I would rather play with the 𝗧𝗶𝘀 with the 75mm that actually has sniping capability. Or rather play with the AT2, so that thing has the armor. This thing has parts of both world, but not the best parts. Also, it's blind as hell. So yeah, it's a black sheep of the whole tech tree. Free XP skip this vehicle most of the time, unless you're a masochist or something. This doesn't feel good. Like a 4, maybe. I'm even leaning towards 3.5 range, just because how bad the view range, the armor, some parts of the mobility, going through muddy terrain or swampy grounds. It has the camo, but yeah, this thing is not great. Alright, moving on to the SDP-44, the Burza. So research this vehicle from the guns. Looks like a mini 𝗖𝗓-esque of a design, but yeah, 90mm stock. Upgraded to 100mm. A little bit better pen, especially the gold shell, which is necessary for tier 8s most of the time, but the accuracy is not as good, but you get better DPM, even better aim time with a larger caliber too, and a longer barrel with better aim time. Alright, so research the gun ASAP. Research path is also pretty straightforward. You only have the radio unlock. It's also the same radio from freaking tier 5, so radio coverage is still also rough. Yeah. Getting help from artillery, still kind of rough. Hang back a little bit more, right? But yeah, research the gun ASAP, then research the engine, and then the tracks, and put the radio on, even though it's still kind of below average, but fully upgraded, 2000 DPM, 0.38 accuracy, 2 seconds of aim time for 100mm. Penetration is above average for a tier 6 tank destroyer. Usually it's about 160 to 170 or so, usually, but 280 alpha is okay, it's workable, but DPM is okay, also not bad, but usually medium tanks have a lot more DPM than this thing, so Cromwell's, 𝗧𝗶𝗶𝘀, they have a DPM. How good is the armor? Does it hold up? So we'll use the 75mm, 120mm pen medium tank guns, such as the 𝗧𝗶𝗶𝘀 or the VK3002, but superstructure is 115 to 140. It says 150, but there are parts of 80mm rounded on this vehicle. There is the 150. It's around the mantlet, so theoretically you will bounce most medium tank guns if you're hull down, some heavy tank guns at tier 6. Which one has a larger caliber? The ARL 44 has a larger caliber, but this thing will not hold up against higher tiers, like a tier 8 especially, but still good enough. It's a slope 150, so relatively more safe, more secure than the tier 5. Upper plate 90 sloped, about 150mm effective, so still better than 40. Lower plate 80. Yeah, armor is more consistent than the tier 5. Side armor is still 40, 50-ish, still crap. So hull down, a little bit better at holding a position than prior vehicle, but yeah. Yeah, high explosive from a BZ-176 will go through. Also, camo is not as good as the predecessor, so 2 things you have to worry about: BZ-176 and the ELC EVN-90. Both are detrimental to the health of this vehicle. So don't go towards fields, don't go towards towns unless you have teammates to take the hits. But yeah, it's not that aggressive. It could bounce a few shots, especially top tier, but dispersion is worse while moving than the prior tier. Similar garbage terrain resistance. And view range is still kind of blind, so 44 rounds of the 100mm. Effective top speed is only good for hard terrain. It gets bogged down dramatically. It's better than the 3.5 to 4 range, right? It's a little bit better. It's at best 5. There are some parts that work, right? Compared to the other tier 5 thing. But it start getting better, hopefully, right? It should start getting better. Alright, moving on to the SDP-57. The Gowika, whatever, however you pronounce it, but similar 100mm from tier 6 as a stock gun, based off of a T-54 chassis thing. Alright, fine, whatever. But similar medium tank to shore base. 122mm. It gets the same accuracy at aim time, but lower DPM for better alpha and better penetration by 20mm or so. Yeah, DPM on D25Ts, Russian 122s are usually pretty high at tier 7, like on the SU-122-44 or SU-152 with the smaller gun, or the ISU-122S. Yeah, DPM is not as high, but you have better pin and better alpha. Aim time is surprisingly quick, so yeah, research a gun ASAP. And then, let's see, research the engine or the tracks. Both will help with the mobility, but yeah, let's put that on. So, has better camo than the Tiger-ish of an SDP-44, but horsepower per ton ratio is still if stock-wise, so put the better engine power, 15.5 or so. Yeah, put the engine first and then the tracks for better traverse. And the radio is still kind of crap, but slightly better. View range is still kind of crap. So 2200 DPM. Accuracy is workable. Aim time is relatively quick. Penetration alpha, decent enough. DPM is fine, I guess. Mobility seems okay. Camo seems a little bit better than the tier 6, but let's see. Dispersion, still kind of crap while moving, especially adjusting to targets, so you're not sniping. And terrain resistance is still crap, so you get bogged down as well, but slightly better engine power means slightly better top speed in mud. Slightly, but not much. 40 rounds, not half bad. Alright, let's see the armor. Armor test is very important for assault tank destroyers. So let's go with about 90mm to about 180mm pin, or 170. The Hellcat is 167 or so. Alright, 180mm on paper for the front. It is sloped, but it's more consistent. Alright, that's fine. That's nice. Upper plate 190. That's fine too. So it's like a Porsche Tiger. Lower plate is only 90. Shoot the lower plate. There is a commander cupola on top, as well as a loader cupola, but only 25. So there are weak spots. You have to haul down, right? Technically, at a distance, the weak spots is very hard to hit. So you should still keep at a distance, at about 200 meters of a distance, just in case they are trying to aim for your weak spot. But then again, if they get tired, they'll spam gold shell. And gold shell has about 220 to 240mm pin now at tier 7. So itself has 250mm pin. So everybody gets tired, start spamming gold, and this thing doesn't hold up to gold shell. So that's the downside. It has armor basically for just casuals, I guess. But once they get tryhardy, they'll spam gold, and gold will go through. Okay, unfortunate. So it's also like the Chinese tank destroyers. Decent enough superstructure, but they'll spam gold or shoot the lower plate. So it's more consistent, I guess. I mean, especially for the accuracy and aim time of the 122. It's better than the 100 on the Burza, but it's still like a 5. You could snipe, technically, but sniping is not comfortable. Especially with the hull traverse dispersion and crappy gun arc. So you're adjusting to a target is very rough. Very rough. They want you to be aggressive, but once they realize your armor will not stand up to gold shell, you're toast most of the time. So I will still say 5, right? I will still say 5. Alright, moving on. Lower tier doesn't seem that spectacular like the Japanese heavy tanks with the gun cooling, right? Just like whatever, it'll work some of the time, but not the craziest. Alright, SDP 58 looks more like a SU 122-44 or 54 now. So stock gun is a new star-shaped tray shells of the gun barrel. So outer diameter is 150, inner diameter is 85. Shell velocity is quick. DPM gets a big boost, mostly because of damage drop off. But now you're starting to play with new mechanics. But DPM baseline is 2,700, which is not bad for a tier 8. But damage will drop off to 400. Not the worst, right? It's only like 33% drop. It's not the craziest, but I think that's fine. 33% drop in DPM is still 1800 DPM or so. So it's still workable, right? Yeah, the damage drop off for the stock gun is not crazy, but aim time is kind of long. Accuracy is relatively okay. So it'll get you to be comfortable with the damage drop off before you move on to the bigger caliber. With better DPM, the same accuracy, aim time, but less alpha, but better penetration. Yeah, you have to go with better pin, right? Pin is about 20 more millimeters, but 600 alpha to 700 alpha. So they really want you to focus on working with the new mechanic. So damage drop off is more significant. About 50% now compared to about 33%. So this gun, the stock gun, trains you on the damage drop off, where the elite gun is for the acclaimed or mastered playstyle of aggressive tank destroyer. So go with the. You could actually just stick with the stock gun. That's what I'm trying to say. You could stick with it until you research all the engine, all the tracks, and the radio. Radio shared. Yeah, radio is better now. Alright, moving on to the engine. 13.33. Stock-wise is kind of rough, but 14.44 is still okay. Top speed is less than 50 now. It's only 40. So it gets a drop. But with the top gun, 2,800 without the rammer. You could put rammer on these things, right? But dispersion, it's better. 0.22 compared to 0.25, but still kind of F. Just train wreck. Terrain resistance is still kind of garbage, but view range is still Russian heavy tank, so it's still kind of blind, but shell velocity is picking up. You have to work with the new shell velocity and the new mechanics. Remains to be proven on how the armor works. So how good is the armor now? Tier 8s. Big tier. 200mm sloped. It's about 250. That's much better. Okay, that is definitely much better than the prior tiers. Lower plate is still crap. 130 to about 170mm effective, but you have a cupola on top. The commander cupola is only 75. That is the main weak spot, but you still have the 7 degrees of gun depression. Utilize that, but yeah, armor is more consistent now. It's about 240. Gold shell will still go through, but most caliber let's say 105 to about 200 millimeters effective. Yeah, they'll not pin most of the time. So they'll switch to gold, but you have to be held down too to increase the effectiveness. So it's like the Chinese tank destroyers, right? Baseline good armor against gold ammo. Jumble up all the words. But once they switch to gold shell, all bets are off. So I still would say keep at a 200-meter distance, right? Yeah, camo 17, so a little bit better, slightly. It still feels unproven, right? Side armor is only 60, don't side scrape. It feels unproven, but the cut to DPM is 50%. That's 1,500. 1,400. With the rammer, it's about 1,700 or something. But the stock gun feels a little bit more consistent. Surprisingly. Penetration is not bad, right? Penetration is not bad, but you get less damage drop off with the stock gun. So it actually might be more viable to use a stock gun. Just in case, until you research everything else. This is still unproven, but I'm saying like 5.5-ish. It's okay. I mean, I don't know how aggressive could you be with a gigantic lower plate and gold shell susceptible armor, right? If this thing has like 300 millimeter, like a E100 upper plate in the form of a superstructure, then I won't complain. But gold shell is a thing, so that's unfortunate. 5.5, unproven. 5.5. All right, SDP-60, the Gonkiewicza. Research is still linear, but 2 engines. The gun is better DPM, but at the cost of accuracy. Same aim time, better penetration from 269 giggity to 292. DPM drop off is also massive. Yeah, DPM drop off even more. But alright, Gonkiewicza. I wonder if the stock gun is viable until you research everything else, right? It's a gamble. You have worse accuracy, and I think you should just research everything else before you research a gun. The stock gun will be efficient, will be sufficient, alright? At its tier, the stock gun is sufficient enough for the star tray shell type, but research everything else, like the engine power and the tracks first. But stock engine power is, or horsepower per ton ratio is about 14, picking up to 15.6. Not half bad. You need the engine power. Radio is, yeah, better. I'm thinking about sometimes radio might weigh more for basically 100 more meters of coverage, which is not really worthwhile. Some of the German radios, or actually the Japanese radios, weighs a hefty ton, but sometimes you don't even need it. Like 700 meter to 600 is practically almost the same. Alright, research everything. Stock gun might be sufficient enough, workable, before you get to researching everything else. Yeah. Alright. Let's see dispersion on the Gonkiewicza. It's slightly better, 0.21. But terrain resistance is also slightly better. Top speed is still 42 compared to 40. So it still gets slightly bogged down, but alright. Armor is 190 at the hull front. How good is this armor? 250 or so. 270 at a different angle. It's 230 in a heavy tank-esque of a driver hatch like the STI or IS-4, but effectively it's about the same. Big mantlet. Very sus. Big mantlet looking. Lower plate 120. Always shoot the lower plate. Gold shell will still go through. Cupola weak spot still on top. Surprisingly, the support is 195 at the sides, so that is also rounded. Usually that's a weak spot, like with the much larger. Project 03, the Kampfpanzer Project 07 HK, they have the similar thing, so support for the remote control turret or remote control machine gun thing, but that is the weak spot usually, but it's still sloped with a thick armor at the front. Alright, 75 for the sides, yeah. Baseline armor is still workable, but I feel armor is not crazy, right? Armor is still prone to gold shell. It's a flat plate, but it's not like 300mm effective or something. It's not like the 263 version number 4. You cannot be too aggressive. I mean, lower plate is definitely the weak spot, but how does it? I want to see how does it compare to something of a Chinese tank destroyer. So these vehicles have the armor, but lower plate is still garbage. Yeah, lower plate is 120. Superstructure is 240, 250 with the cupola weak spots. So it's relatively stronger than the Chinese tank destroyers, but they're categorized as versatile. Alright. This thing has better armor at tier 10, but it's still about 270-ish, 280-ish. Yeah. Gold shell will still go through. Lower plate is still big. It's categorized as salt, not versatile. But compare these to the 268s, dramatically different. Oh man, this thing has been nerfed. Like, yeah, freaking 300 sloped. So yeah, this thing is effective. Lower plate effective. It's sloped on the trollish upper plate too. So the armor on this thing is effective, right? 350 or so millimeters effective compared to your 270. Ah, yeah. God, how the hell do you rate these things? The gun wants you to be close range, but you don't have the armor to be close ranged. I feel nervous about playing these things. I really do. They want you to be close range, but you don't have the armor unless you're hauled down or something. Or unless you're wiggle about and use a gigantic mantlet to throw off the shots. Maybe, but this is not direct confrontation like the 268 version number 4. I'll still say 5.5. Unproven. Alright, moving on to the final vehicle. This is taking way too long. NC-70. No need to research anything. It's a tier 10. Oh, whoops. There should be nothing to research. Yeah, nothing to research. It's a tier 10. View range, below average, but 0.34 accuracy, 2.4 seconds aim time, not bad, but you have to master the damage drop-off by now, right? Okay. Still, 800 to 300 alpha feels bad at a distance. So DPM is high, but it drops off. Alright. 200mm hull front, 70 at the hull sides. Engine power still, horsepower per ton ratio still feels about the same ballpark. Slightly faster to rev, but not the craziest. Camo is not the greatest. Might be the worst out of the whole tech tree, surprisingly. But dispersion factor is better than 0.21, so yeah, adjusting to target is much better. Terrain resistance is about the same. Health, average-ish. 60 rounds though. Alright. Oh no. How good is the armor? That's a big question out of all these vehicles. How good is the armor? Mantlet is big. Okay, it's still about 280. I mean, better with the cheek sloped backwards as well, like an IS-4, but still about 280. Still like the WZ-113 GFT, like the Chinese tank destroyer. Shoot the lower plate. The lower plate is thicker now. 140 sloped at about 230mm effective is not half bad, but yeah, tier 10s will go through. Tier 8s will struggle, but tier 10s will go through. So hold down, but armor is not crazy. Armor is really not crazy for these vehicles. Huh. I don't know how high I could give these. They want you to be aggressive, but if you'd be too aggressive, the gold shell will be coming in and they'll pin. Oh, the rangefinders are still heavily armored too. That's nice. It's slow backwards with the shielding as space armor. Alright. 𝗧𝗶𝘀 is still the weak spots. Shoot the 𝗧𝗶𝘀, similar to the 𝗧𝗶113 GFT. So 𝗧𝗶𝘀 weak spots, but yeah, folks. I don't know how they want you to be aggressive. Armor doesn't really hold up. Not like a 268 version number 4. Not like this thing. Even this upper plate will bounce a lot of the shells, even though lower plate is crap. The superstructure is also good with this thing. It's 250 sloped to about 400mm effective. It's 250 slope for the superstructure. So yeah, lower plate is crap, but the hull armor is a hell of a lot better than 270mm effective. So you're not being super aggressive like with these things. This is aggressive. This is aggressive in your face without that big of a gun, but yeah, the gun traverse arc still sucks compared to 12 degrees on something like this, or like 14. Was it 14 or 12 as well? 12 on the 268 version number 4. So you're... It's like a Chinese tank destroyers. And Chinese tank destroyers are not popular. Not really. I have all of it. They're not popular. You can snipe with these things. Gun arc is a thing. So you can actually use the gun arc. It doesn't have the damage drop off. Right? Doesn't want you to be super aggressive. You could camp in the back. And gun depression is close enough. You could haul down and camp in the back. You play it like a big ISU practically, right? With sometimes workable armor. That's how I play it. Works out for me, but for these vehicles, you cannot snipe. The damage drop off is significant. So, oh my god. Unless this thing has like 300mm or even more slope armor effectively on the hull front, it doesn't work out. Gold shell will pin. Tier 10s are spamming gold shell all the time. And adjusting to target were like EBRs running about hard, rough. So the only place these vehicles work out really well is corridor maps. And there's a lot of it. But gold shell is still a thing. So the most fun vehicle out of this lineup is likely the tier 8. The tier 8 has the best armor out of the ratio to tier comparison. Out of all of these, the best armor is the tier 8. The worst vehicle is likely the tier 5. The tier 5's upper plate feels like crap. So most fun vehicle, likely tier 8. Weakest vehicle, likely tier 5. And, oh, thought of something. How does the module damage work on the inner diameter of the shells? The inner diameter is 85. The outer diameter is like 170 or something, 175. So, how does the module damage compare to a, say, large caliber gun, like a 268? Module damage is actually the same as a large caliber gun. 170. The ISU 152 type of, or 152 type of shell compared to 175 outer barrel to 85 inner diameter barrel shell is the same module damage. So module damage doesn't get a hit, which is nice, but a lot faster shell velocity and carry more rounds. Alright. Damage. So no difference. 100mm is the same module damage. It starts at tier 8, but yeah, smaller caliber, obviously, less module damage. Okay, so that's not bad. You don't get a module damage of a 85mm per se, so there's no difference there. But yeah, these vehicles doesn't feel that crazy. I mean, it's fine. It's World of Tanks, not World of Maps. I would prefer World of Maps a little bit more now. Give me more maps, not World of Tanks. But yeah. From initial impression of all the stats, tier 8 seems the best. Armor for tier ratio, in comparison, relatively speaking, is the best. The worst one is tier 5. It's the 𝗬𝗀 of the whole line. 𝗬𝗀 is the other crap. Gonna make a meme out of that vehicle. That vehicle sucks ass. Yeah, tier 5 will struggle. Tier 8 is the best. Well, there you go, folks. The new Polish tank destroyers. Been rambling to myself for half an hour plus, but if you already research everything, right? If you already research all the vehicles prior, like have been playing the video game for a very long time, then just use blueprints. They'll slowly accumulate, so reroll for blueprint missions, but I haven't played my Type 57 or even the Type 68. I don't have it, but already unlock the Type 71 just because of the blueprints from missions. So once you reroll to these vehicle fragment blueprints, this is perfect. You get three for the highest one, but 5 or technically 6 if you reroll this one. Let's see if we can get it, but that's a lot of XP for free. Basically researching the vehicle for free. No, I didn't get it. But don't even have to play the whole tech tree. Just research the guns and you'll be fine. But this line doesn't feel that crazy. It's remained to be proven for the alpha damage drop-off thing, but the armor doesn't really hold up. The armor doesn't really hold up in comparison to the Russians. So, Russian bias, but maybe at a distance, right? Maybe something like a big-ass mantlet will throw a few shots with gun depression at a distance, but I don't feel these vehicles are like 50 meters or close type of vehicles. Even if you're face-hugging, they'll negate the sloping of your upper plate because they're face-hugging and shooting downwards. So you're not effectively getting as thick of an armor if they're face-hugging, but you get the DPM. So I don't know. The longer these vehicles survive, the better. So it's like autoloaders in a sense, right? You have the shell velocity to snipe and pick off targets, or the alpha damage to go toe-to-toe, in a sense, to trade the health for DPM. But you have to survive long enough, like an autoloader, to utilize that advantage. Otherwise, it's just the same as any other tank destroyers. 15 versus 15, you eat gold shell right off the bat. So, remains to be proven, but it's like Chinese tank destroyers with a gimmick, practically. But at least the Chinese tank destroyers are consistent. These vehicles are somewhat consistent. I can snipe with these. These are like gigantic ISUs, in a sense, at higher tier. I just want vehicles like this. This is a proper sniper, right? This is no armor sniper of a vehicle. Or at least like the Object 268. These are aggressive assault guns. This is aggressive. This got nerfed like 3 or 4 times. At least twice. This is aggressive. Even the E3 or Jagdpanzer E100 is considered as aggressive-ish. But yeah, these vehicles feel more like versatile to me. The armor doesn't really hold up. So if you want to get a feel right now, play the Chinese tank destroyers, practically. They're about the same in terms of armor, just without the gimmick of the damage drop-off. Well, there you go, folks. I've been rambling for like 40 minutes now. So, as always, thank you guys for watching this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I wouldn't put too much effort, so these are not the craziest or the most OP line in World of Tanks as of yet. So, I wouldn't say this is our top priority of a tank destroyer player to research. Go with the 268 version number 4. You won't be disappointed with that line. That line is good with the armor. But yeah, these vehicles are unproven and kind of gimmicky. So as always, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.